Hi, I just wanted to take a few moments here on Substack to talk to you about why it's so important that the BBC is absolutely defunded and that its iniquitous license tax comes to an end. Now, I know some folks in the States get agitated about the fact that I think round about $500 million of taxpayers' dollars go towards public broadcasting in the United States. Well, in the UK, roughly 3.7 billion, so multiple times what you get extracted from you in the States, goes to fund the BBC. And so the BBC then has this massive fund of money from which it then can push out its relentless propaganda. And propaganda it is. Let's be clear in this. The BBC is not a public broadcaster. The BBC is a public propagandist. Its mission is to get us to follow a particular narrative, to beat a particular set of views into us, which is typically extreme left, in my opinion, pro-Islam, and very much anti-anything that strikes of sensible economics. So the BBC, if it ever had a virtue, and I would argue it never really did, but even if you want to say historically it did, at that point in time, way back, it's long since gone. And so should the method of funding. The way you deal with the BBC is you take away the cash. Essentially, you doge it. You doge the BBC. And way back in the day, the BBC used to allow me to come. I was banned from the BBC about 2014, 2015. All BBC platforms, right? I'm not allowed on them for being just me. However, it's clear to me that the BBC do not tolerate views such as those that I express, and which you may potentially agree with. They don't tolerate those views. So their mission is, as I say, insidious propaganda of the worst kind, of the very worst kind. They're so sympathetic to the trans agenda. They're so sympathetic to Gaza. They're so sympathetic to open borders. They're so sympathetic to Islam. They're so sympathetic to essentially communism. I mean, these are the things that drive the BBC. These are the core values of the BBC. But if the funding was taken off it, then it could still keep those values. No one's saying you can't have those values. It's just you can't expect everyone to fund it. You can't expect, and the way it works in the UK, folks, if you have a TV license and you watch live TV, theoretically, you have to pay the BBC 100 and whatever it is, £170 a year. So it really is iniquitous. And as I was going to say to you, when I used to go on the BBC, I would, round about each time of the year when the license fee is being renegotiated by the government, I would say, well, look, if you're as good as you say that you are, why do you need any funding? People will surely happily pay for your service, won't they? And of course, the answer is no, they won't. And the BBC knows that. And that's why it continues to to argue for this license tax. But I don't think that is in any way compatible with 2025 or whatever. However, British governments, particularly left-wing British governments, know that they can always rely on the BBC to push their agenda, which is what we're seeing at the moment. And we saw it under Tony Blair. We always see this. If you've got a left-wing socialist government in power in the UK, the BBC quite like that. They always want them to be a little bit more left-wing in what they do, but fundamentally they approve of that. And then the conservatives, so-called, when they get into power, are so scared of the BBC that they won't do the obvious thing, which is to bring about that defunding. Save the British public 3.7 billion a year and defund the BBC.